What's up guys, JV2017 here, and I am bringing you a new Fallout 4 tips and tricks video, and we are continuing my character build guide series with a classic Fallout universe character. Just a quick reminder guys, this is your hub for daily Fallout 4 content here on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and stay tuned on my channel for daily Fallout 4 tips and tricks videos. Today I'm going to show you how to make a Grognak the Barbarian character build, and if you're not familiar, Grognak is the shirtless, completely ripped action hero from a comic book series within the Fallout universe. I'm pretty sure he's a cross between Conan the Barbarian and He-Man, but the general gist is that he's a medieval hero who fights monsters with a giant weapon. Now before we begin, I'd like to point out that this is my interpretation of a Grognak build. I'm sure there are plenty of other ideas out there, so if you'd like to share your version of this character, feel free to do so in the comments below. And I tried to strike a balance between being true to the Grognak character, but also trying to make this build fun, viable, and interesting to play in the game, so I hope you all will enjoy. The three defining traits that I used to kind of craft my Grognak build were the fact that he's obviously super strong. He's got this incredible superhuman hero strength, and so that was a big thing for me. And then of course he's wielding these giant weapons, like a giant axe and a giant sword on all of the comic book characters, so that was another kind of high point for me. And then of course he's this hero, he's this medieval hero, he's fighting off these monsters, and so I wanted to make sure that Grognak had everything that he needed to be a hero. The special for this build starts with 9 strength, 2 perception, 3 endurance, 1 charisma, 1 intelligence, 9 agility, and 5 luck. And this is a 30-point build. So this includes the 1 perception bobblehead that everybody should get near the beginning of the game. And also I just put in 1 luck from the special book, which is also located near the beginning of the game. So really the plan here is to focus on strength perks primarily at first, and 1 upper tier agility perk, and then gradually work our way into luck. I think luck is a fantastic combat based stat for any build, so that's kind of the long-term plan with this build. Let's talk about the signature perks that really kind of define this build, and they are Big Leagues, Armorer, Blacksmith, Rooted, Blitz, and Idiot Savant. And we're going to take a look at each of these perks in the perk chart one by one right now. Starting us off is Big Leagues, and this is the premier perk for this entire build because it affects weapon damage directly. So with each rank you're going to get 20% more melee damage, and then as you go up you'll get these additional effects like disarming your opponents, being able to hit everyone in front of you with rank 4. And then I've heard mixed reports about Big Leagues rank 5. Some people are saying it's bugged and it doesn't work. Some people are saying that it does work, but the damage it displays is just bugged. So there's something wrong with Big Leagues. I hope they patch it soon, but you don't have to worry about rank 5 until level 42. But something to think about is take every rank as immediately as it is available. So at level 7 you need to take Big Leagues because again, this is how we deal damage. This is a very vital perk for this build. And next we have Armor, again at strength 3, and this just kind of supplements the build. Again, you're going to need some protection, and we're going to be wearing Grognak's costume, which is something I'll talk about towards the end of the video with our signature items. And you're still able to wear certain armor pieces with the Grognak costume, so it's nice to be able to mod those additional pieces with all of the junk that you're gathering out in the world. And Blacksmith is another signature perk here because we're able to add mods to our weapons. This is, again, a melee-based character, and you're probably not always going to want to use Grognak's axe. Again, that's another signature item we're going to talk about later in the video, and this allows you some extra wiggle room to experiment with other weapons, so Blacksmith is important as well. Way down at strength 9 is Rooted, and while you're standing still, you gain additional damage resistance, and your attacks, your melee attacks, deal 25% more damage, which is pretty freaking useful. And once you get all the way to rank 3, you automatically disarm enemies that use melee weapons against you, which is really good against, of course, raiders and super mutants that will be, attacking you with their boards and their lead pipes and, whatever it may be. So Rooted is also super important here. This might be the second most important perk here, and it's Blitz. So Blitz allows you to attack from crazy distances with melee in VATS, and really what we're going to be doing is using VATS primarily for, our combat. We have high agility with this build, so you're able to use blitz to your advantage even if you're facing a large group of enemies. And then when you get to rank 2, it's even crazier. The distance is so far away, and the farther you are away, the higher the damage with blitz. So blitz is just vital to this build as well. And then finally, Idiot Savant. This is kind of an added on perk. Usually I only pick 5 to talk about, but Idiot Savant is important here because we're only taking 1 intelligence. And so I just really don't like missing out on, experience. And Idiot Savant kind of, makes up for the fact that we're going low intelligence in order to go into other categories, to get those other premier perks faster. So Idiot Savant is a perk with its ranks that I would take immediately as they're available. So take Idiot Savant very early, and then rank 2 is at 11. Level 11, I would take that as soon as it's available. Of course, there are a lot of useful, helpful perks in this game, so I'm going to talk about some additional extra perks that you should think about with this build. The first one, of course, is Strong Back. This is just useful across the board. We're running a strength-based character, so having that extra carry weight will just be, kind of useful throughout your build. Next is Toughness. Again, we need something to mitigate this damage since we're a melee character. And I've really noticed that we're running low endurance. We're kind of running a, not too low endurance, but 3 endurance with this build. And that's probably not the best thing if you're going to play this on a higher difficulty. Anything higher than normal, you're probably going to want to take points out of luck and put them into endurance and kind of focus on toughness and life giver, which is the next perk that I'm talking about here. You just get more health, and of course at rank 3 you get regenerating health just automatically, so that's really useful. Otherwise you're going to be burning through stim packs, so taking toughness and life giver is something to consider based on your difficulty level. Action Boy is the next perk I would, think about taking. You regenerate that, those action points, which of course, this is all about, using blitz and being able to use it as often as possible. So if you run into groups of enemies, you're going to need these action points to regenerate quicker. So, Action Boy is kind of a no-brainer for this build. Next is Moving Target, which is a perk that's honestly, in my opinion, only useful for a melee-based character. You're going to be sprinting towards enemies, especially if they notice you from long distances. So this gives you that additional, damage and energy resistance while you're sprinting. And then even rank 3 is useful. Sprinting costs 50% fewer action points. That's useful no matter what, of course, for just getting around. So that's something I would think about as well. I always urge people to take Bloody Mess because you get that flat, 15% damage bonus by level 31 with this perk. I just think it's nice to deal more damage. It's just useful all around, so I definitely recommend Bloody Mess. Next, better criticals is something to think about as well. You get additional critical damage. This is really useful against some of those harder enemies, and on the harder difficulties, you want to hit as hard as possible, and being able to fill up that critical meter and then execute those criticals for the maximum amount of damage is absolutely useful. And then of course I'm pretty much just going to keep going down the luck tree here because all of these perks really synergize with each other. So Critical Banker is super useful, especially against legendary enemies. So if you're using Grognak and you run into a legendary, let's say you're playing on a harder difficulty, you're going to need to have some critical hits in your back pocket in order to down that enemy so they don't down you. Again, I didn't go high endurance with this build. That's something you guys might want to think about altering if you're playing on a higher difficulty, but Critical Banker is super useful there. Of course, Grim Reaper Sprint is also super useful. So as you're killing enemies, if you run into a large group of them, you have that chance to restore that AP, which will just keep you fighting and keep you alive. And then finally, 4-leaf clover. That random chance of filling the critical meter is going to be very useful. And again, it synergizes so well with everything in the luck, the luck tree. Honestly, the luck tree is probably the most powerful tree for combat in the game. So I definitely advise you guys to invest your points in here, somewhere down the road. Now let's look at the perk roadmap, which is pretty much your plans for which perks you'll be taking at the starting levels. And this is just for the first 10 levels. I don't really want to micromanage your playthroughs too much, but I think this gives you a solid starting point for your Grognak character. So at level 2, I think it's just most important to start with Idiot Savant. We're running a low intelligence character here, and so maximizing that XP from the very beginning is so important to me. So that's why I put that as the very first perk that you will take. At level 3, obviously, is Big Leagues. We're a melee character. That's our focus. We want to maximize that damage as soon as possible. Next, at level 4 is Blitz. And this is kind of, I want to take this early because number 1, it's super useful. Number 2, it's kind of to get you guys in the mood of, using this playstyle, and you can even sneak sometimes. That's something that I considered putting in this build, but I didn't think it was true to the Grognak character. But you can even sneak around and get, a little bit of a critical boost by using Blitz. And, meleeing from such long distances is so useful throughout the game. So that's why I would take Blitz that early. And then at level 5, take Rooted. This is one of our signature perks, and you're going to be dealing more damage as long as you're standing still. So if you don't kill your enemy with Blitz in the first, whack of your axe, you can kill them with the second whack with Rooted, and that'll help you out there. At level 6, I took Life Giver, and I was having some issues with health. I was running out of stim packs very, very quickly, and so Life Giver was something that I took that just kind of helped mitigate the fact that I am a melee character. And also, something I didn't mention, you might want to consider Medic as well, because that really helps out with, mitigating that damage that you will be taking by fighting people up close and not having a gun. So at level 7, absolutely take Big Leagues. This is the first level that it's available with rank 2. Again, we're trying to maximize that damage. You'll get 40% and a chance to disarm at rank 2 of Big Leagues. Next is Blacksmith, and again, this will help you because you're probably going to have a hard time getting Grognak's gear early in the game. I was able to get it at level 7, but it was very, very difficult, so Blacksmith will allow you to modify the weapons that you are using until you're able to go get Grognak's gear. And next at level 9, I would take Armor. Again, you can augment the gear that you are using. If you haven't gotten the Grognak costume yet, of course you can, mess with all of the gear that you have to increase those resistances. But this is also useful in the long run when you do get his costume, because you can still wear certain pieces with the Grognak armor on. At level 10, I took Action Boy. Again, having more AP is really useful when you're facing large groups of enemies. When you're surrounded by synths or super mutants, you're going to need to regenerate that AP because each swipe takes a little chunk. It's a very small chunk, but just having more in your back pocket is kind of a peace of mind thing, and it's really useful, especially on higher difficulties. So if you hadn't already noticed, the general playstyle, the gist of what we're doing is using Blitz at longer distances to engage the enemy. That's how you're going to begin your combat scenarios, and then you're going to charge in and use your melee weapon to essentially chop the enemy to bits. Basically, that's the idea here. And since we are a melee character, Blitz is so important. You're going to see as you get it at level 4 that you can pretty much engage the enemy at pretty long distances with VATS, and that is just so useful. And once you upgrade Blitz to the second rank, it's over. Everything's over. You can engage enemies at such long distances. It's so good, and it's even viable once you get to the point where you have all those perks in a survival mode playthrough. That's how good Blitz is. And there will be some scenarios where there will be a turret that's up in an area that you can't shoot at, and your companion's just not good enough to help you in that situation. So you might want to roll with a pistol or something to just kind of help you out in those situations. And that's not to break the role play, and I understand if you guys don't want to carry a weapon with you, a gun with you, but that just helped me out in certain situations where I was just going to get killed unless I had something to engage an enemy at a point that I could not reach with my giant axe. The signature items for this build, of course, are Grognak's axe, that's the weapon, and then the Grognak costume, which is a fantastic piece of armor. And so you can get these items in Hubris Comics. I made an entire kind of guide video on how to get both of these items on my channel if you guys need more information on that. And so this is kind of the role-playing way that you would go for this build, but Grognak's axe is not going to deal the most damage for you. It does have some nice legendary modifiers on it. It's got some bleed damage and a chance to stagger enemies, but it's just not the best. And so if you guys want the absolute maximum damage, go for a modded super sledge. That's going to give you the absolute maximum amount of damage. But again, if you want to stay true to Grognak, you can stick with his axe. His axe is a really cool weapon. I totally recommend it. And in fact, the Grognak costume might be even more important. This is something that I urge you guys to wear no matter what. You get 2 strength from it. You essentially get a rank of toughness and 10 damage resistance by wearing this, and you also get upwards of 40% bonus melee damage just by wearing this costume. And the best part is that it only takes up your underneath layer, so kind of like your Vault 111 suit, and then you could put stuff on top of that. It takes up that layer and also your chest layer, but it leaves your arms, your legs, and your head and potential glasses to wear if you want to go ahead and wear those to kind of augment your character. But the Grognak costume is so good, guys. I mean, wear it no matter what with this build. It's that good. Finally, here is a short list of companion options for your Grognak build. You know, people you can roll with that will augment this playstyle. And I always recommend a small group of them, so please forgive me if you watch all these videos and you're like, you already recommended that. So Preston Garvey, number 1. I think he's the best companion in the game because he's got the best companion perk. It's plus 20% damage across the board and plus 20 damage resistance when you're fighting 3 or more enemies. That's especially useful for this Grognak build because, again, we're a melee-based build, and so when you're facing a lot of enemies, it's a little bit tougher. Once you have Garvey with you and his maximum affinity perk, that will help out big time. Next is Paladin Dance. Of course, you see him early in the game. It's plus 20% damage to ghouls, super mutants, and synths. That, you know, accounts for a lot of the enemies you'll be facing in the game, so that's useful as well. Strong is another option, but something I wouldn't recommend because you kind of don't have this, you know, ranged and melee character dynamic. If you go with Strong, he's primarily a melee character unless you give him a gun, which I haven't even tried. I don't know if he even uses it, but his affinity perk is when you're below 25% health, you deal plus 20% melee damage. So that sounds useful, but you never want to be below 25% health ever. And so I kind of don't like these perks that only work at certain points. I like, of course, the flat damage boost that you get from Garvey or Dance. My final suggestion is Curie, because again, her affinity perk will kind of mitigate the damage that you will be taking. So she will heal you once per day for 100 hit points if you fall below 10% health. So this is a last ditch kind of save thing, and I think that's useful. You know, you don't want to be dying a lot. You don't want to have to save so much because you're dying so much. Curie will really help you out with that. So after all of that, I'd like to know, are you going to play a Grognak build, and how would you build your own Grognak character? Of course, I think there are some issues with mine, namely it's the health, it's the endurance. I went for more of a damage-based Grognak than, you know, maybe one that will be able to survive more on higher difficulties. Of course, you guys, I would say just take points out of luck and put them into endurance if you're having difficulty with that, or maybe sneak 2 points into intelligence to get medic. That will kind of help you guys survive if you're having difficulties with that. Also suggest a new character for me to build for you guys in the future. Share all of that below. Alright guys, today I showed you how to make a Grognak the Barbarian character build in Fallout 4, and next time we will cover more Fallout on my channel, so stay tuned for daily Fallout 4 tips and tricks videos, and remember that this is your one-stop shop for Fallout 4 content on YouTube. If you learned something new, remember to hit that like button. I would really appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe for more unique weapon guides, build guides, and general tips and tricks videos. I love reading all of your great suggestions, but I've already planned my next build. It's going to be Han Solo because, of course, Star Wars comes out next Friday, and I release these videos every Friday. So I hope you guys are really looking forward to that. I'll be reading your suggestions for the video after. Talk to you guys next time. Peace.